So with most of the front end cut off, it's time to come in here and continue to drill out some spot welds, especially these ones here on the firewall. And those are kind of hard to get to, and you don't want the drill going too deeply into the dash. And there's some in here too, and there were quite a few more here than I realized. And there's this big chunk of metal here that goes a lot deeper down than you would think, and it has a bracket inside. And so eventually I drilled it all out and I got it out, and you can see that bracket on the bottom. It's also spot welded on the inside where you can't get to it, and so I had to drill all these spot welds out to get that out, the lower ones too, which I wasn't expecting. This side came out pretty well. I was getting the rest of the spot welds out on the top and on this plate, which is staying with the car, and the rest of the front of that is coming out. And so I basically drilled out all those spot welds, and then I could remove that part, and I even drilled from the inside. You can see where I cut the window out and got the back side of those spot welds. And so this whole frame rail piece needs to come out, and the firewall piece as well. You can see I did a better job at drilling all those out because they would just tear, and they had a hard time coming out without tearing, so I just had to make the holes a little bit bigger. Anyway, I got this piece off. This is all part of the new assembly, so I'm just going to get rid of it completely, and then drilling out all these little tiny spot welds as well. And so there's that big bulky chunk gone, and then this inner frame piece gone. So now I have perfect part to work with. And here's the frame rail, and on this side the little bracket stayed down inside, so I just left it that way. So making progress. The car looks really awful right now, being that the whole front of it's missing. And I left the AC condenser on there and everything, which didn't end up working out, but we'll get to that later. But anyway, you can see how this car looks really bad, but it's going to be fun to look back on. So here's the whole front clip I have in the side yard. If you didn't catch the earlier videos, this came off of a blue Mach 1, and it is actually off of a red Mach 1. This is a red clear-coated engine bay, and it even had the tag on it that said Mach 1 on it. Not that that really matters. It's the same as any Mustang or V6 would be for 9904, but I just think it's kind of cool that it's off of a Mach 1. But anyway, I just had some fenders hung on here with a couple bolts just to hold it in place. And I had the header panel in front too that holds the headlights, and this was basically just all here for storage purposes. I just had a bolt here and there just to hold it all together, and had it stacked on the tires to keep it nice. But it is so nice to have this whole front end, which has all the radiator core support and everything straight off of a nice car. And somebody had already done all the work to remove this off of another car, and it was just on a blue Mach 1 in the wrecking yard, and I was able to get it off pretty easily. So here's the header panel that holds the headlights and everything. We'll get to that in a little bit later. But I got it all out in front of the car, and this is fun. This is a moment I've been waiting for, just getting to the point where I'm able to get these two together. I've been waiting for a long time to have this in a position where I can get close to putting it on, and I wanted to test fit it, and I realized that there's still some pieces that need to be adjusted before I can really get to it. And so that's what we're going to do here. And just looking at it together, though, it's so fun to have all the pieces of the puzzle coming together. So I really like that. And I tried to go around that AC condenser, but the lines were already messed up on the firewall, so we'll get to that in a second here. But here's the front of the car, looking good with the new piece ready. But if you can see where I did have to tear some of the sheet metal off the other car to get it out, and those little spot welds that somebody else had done to secure it to that blue Mach 1, so I needed to go through and clean those up. Now, I did use a hammer dolly to straighten this ugly piece out. You can see how nice and straight that looks. I was very happy. It's the first time I've ever done that before. My neighbor just lent me that tool and said, hey, try it out. So I did, and I really like how it worked out, and I think it came out fantastic. So here's the whole front end of the car, finally getting to the point where I can really test fit it. And I wanted to hang the front frame rails in the perches of the frame rails, and you'll see a close-up of that here in a second. But that's basically how I wanted to go about it, was get it hung on there and if I could get the jack in the front of the car to hold it up in place, then I'd be able to use self-tappers to hold it in place until I could work more on getting the K-member on it and getting it welded in place, and so that's all to come. Here you can see that the lower frame parts are in the perches, and you can see there looking good on each side. And I did have to do a little bit of adjustment on that because it's not perfect on the passenger side, but the driver's side was perfect and straight and square, so I just wanted to go off the driver's side and then adjust the rest of it according to that. So getting it lined up and moving it back and forth, and I even used a wood block and kind of tapped it back into place to get it where it needed to go. And you can see it doesn't have the actual metal front bumper on there, but I got it on there now because I got one at the wrecking yard. So in this shot you can see it's there, and I was using that to pound with wood to get it straightened up. But you can see where these go in. This is perfectly lined up. I'm very happy about that, and you can even see where the paint was on the overspray of the old car and how it lines up nicely. And so got that in with some self-tappers just to get it straight, and then the other side I did too. Drove a couple of them in there. My brother brought his impact gun and a nice DeWalt one, and we got that on. So you can see how it's straight here, and it's measured just like it would be on the other cars. And the fender hung nicely, and I wanted to make sure that these fenders would line up, the hood would line up, and that the latch would line up, just everything, so that I could have the door fender gaps right before I get it all welded, because I wanted to make sure everything looked great before that, and it is really coming together. I'm very happy about this. So I had to get more of these brackets at the wrecking yard because I used these from this red front end on my silver one when I was getting it back together, so I robbed a lot of parts. Here's the K-member ready to go on, and you can see the bumpers on, headlights in it. It looks really good, and this K-member went right into place. There's the springs out of it right now, but I was so happy these K-member bolts slid right up into place like they should, and on the back there. So that's going to give it a very good strong rigidity until it's welded. And so here we are dropping the car down with its new front end. I'm so excited about this. I've been waiting for a long time to do this, and you know, I would do progression each day and then worry about it a little bit and wonder if it was going to work out. But as soon as those K-member bolts went in straight in, the body panels started lining up. I was so excited. So that's the update for the car. It is a roller now. It's ready for welding. I've got some more things to do to it, so stay tuned for the rest of the project. I hope you like this video, and if you haven't seen the earlier videos, go ahead. I always put the playlist at the end of the video, and you can see where this car came from and what it was like when I bought it and all the steps I've taken to get it to this point. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for more Mustang content.